The facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear.
That Ventura had a choice and that she chose to participate in those sexual encounters.
Where she is entertaining other people in the bedroom. He enjoyed having the freak-offs.
She's being asked specifically about the drug use.
She is clearly excited about a freak-off.
Day 4 of the trial started quietly, but everything flipped in a matter of minutes. Fearful face. The calm was gone when the prosecution presented a stack of hidden messages between Diddy and his ex, Cassie Ventura. These messages blew up his whole story. They directly challenged all the things Diddy had been publicly denying for months. The courtroom fell into chaos as the texts were revealed. The judge repeatedly slammed his gavel just to keep
Cassie Ventura on the witness stand for a fourth day in the federal criminal trial against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The defense continuing cross-examination this morning, confronting her with dozens of her own messages, many explicit, hoping to convince the jury she was an eager sexual partner who matched Combs' desires. "I'm always ready to freak off," one message said.
She was into the freak-offs herself and was like a willing participant and was into all the freaky stuff, and essentially that was the crux of what they were trying to do yesterday.
And do you think they proved that or not?
I mean, there's texts like that from 2009, "I'm always ready to freak off." There was some other texts where she was referencing like hitting him up about the FOs, is what they were referring to him. To me, like, yes, this doesn't look good, but at the same time, I think the timeline is crucial here. And these are texts from 2009, man. That was when they were first getting in the relationship. She was young. Obviously, when they were in the honeymoon stage, and she was stoked to like, oh my God, I'm with Diddy, I'm living this lavish lifestyle. Of course, she's going to be saying things that she knows will curry favor with him to keep it going.
The morning seemed ordinary at first, but the moment the prosecutor announced new, hidden messages between Diddy and Cassie, everything shifted. Fearful face. The color drained from Diddy's face. His breathing grew heavy, and disbelief filled his eyes. Reporters said, "I've covered many cases, but I've never seen a reaction like this." Diddy stood up, walked toward the judge in a panic, and nearly crossed the bench, prompting his lawyers and security to rush forward and grab him. The courtroom fell into a hushed chaos. The judge called for a recess immediately. Importantly, the messages hadn't even been read aloud yet. Just their announcement was enough to rattle him. Everyone in the room knew this meant something huge. Whatever was in those messages seemed to cut through all his defenses. His dramatic reaction made many believe the messages were a key piece of the trial, a piece that could destroy his carefully maintained public image.
She was ready, and I think she's demonstrating that. The facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear as the case goes on and Cassie's testimony goes on, and we'll see what the jury does.
And finally, we'll talk about Justin Bieber, because he is finally addressing the Diddy stuff. There's been long speculation that somehow he's involved.
I'm surprised it took so long to address.
Well, he's clearing that up now, and also we'll talk about how people are scared for Justin Bieber because they think he's in a cult. They have to have a
By the end of today, Cassie will be done. So they have all day today to ask her whatever they want to ask her.
Because obviously, she's about to pop, and that's like...
Which is totally understandable.
So if she did pop, if she did give birth, let's say the technical term, over the weekend, you know what would happen then, Devin?
I don't.
Mistrial, baby.
Why do you say that? What?
Because she's due back on the stand to give testimony. And if she can't give testimony
No,
anymore,
she's giving testimony today.
I know. I was saying, what if...
Oh, like she gave birth and then
that's why. That's the
delayed.
reason. If she wasn't pregnant, I don't think the judge would have said you have to finish by today.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Obviously, that's the whole. That's the whole crux of the argument.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You didn't explicitly, spell it out.
But Diddy's team is also pissed off because they're like, we want as much time as we can have.
Her voice is low at times. The defense did tell her if it's too much, I can read them, but there were many times early on this morning where she read some of those explicit details where she is clearly excited about a freak off and talks about entertaining other people in the bedroom.
And what has Diddy's demeanor been in this cross-examination as well?
There was a moment where Sean Combs was nodding in agreement when they brought up a message that he sent her where he said, one of my favorite times of the freak-offs is when we're able to make love after. And then she responds, "That's the same for me." Now, what's interesting here is that that does match what she told prosecutors, or what she's been telling the jury all along, which is she did this, and she said, but she really wanted to spend time with him after the fact. So he was shaking his head at this message where he's almost, I guess, agreeing that he did say, without him saying it, he enjoyed having the freak-offs and then having sex with her after the fact. And her saying, "I agree with you. I love having sex with you after too."
The messages presented by the prosecutor were more than just texts. They were a timeline of control, abuse, and fearful face. The messages revealed a dramatic pattern. Diddy would manipulate, threaten, and then apologize, only to repeat the cycle again and again. "I made you, and I can break you. Please stop threatening me. I'm scared. You should be." The messages fell heavy in the courtroom, proving to everyone that this was not a loving relationship. It was a nightmare for Cassie. The texts supported her testimony in black and white. There were messages after physical abuse, messages threatening her future, messages attempting to buy her silence. The jury fell silent. Journalists nodded gravely. It was hard for anyone to pretend these were isolated messages or misunderstood exchanges. The pattern was clear. The messages exposed a manipulative side to Diddy, a side that the world hadn't previously seen, and made a powerful, undeniable case against him.
The other things that Diddy's team tried to do was show how they had breaks, and she was with Michael B. Jordan and was with Kid Cudi for a minute. But during that time period, she was still having freak-offs with Diddy, and I think that was them trying to show this wasn't a controlling thing. Here she was hooking up with other people. She just was into the freak-offs.
I kind of buy that, to be honest.
So
she is out of the freak-off scene. She is when she's with Kid Cudi or allegedly with Michael B. Jordan. She's kind of out of the freak-off if she wants to be. So why do you keep going back? I know it's kind of like a mental she still loves Diddy. Diddy was jealous about her.
Oh yeah, because that was another thing that the prosecutors were trying to do, is show that that they had a very jealous relationship. She would get jealous when he's with Kid Cudi. Also, Kim Porter, Cassie would be jealous of Kim Porter.
Right.
Trying to show that, Cassie, you were in love with this guy. That's why you were jealous.
Right.
So, this was a real
It
relationship.
was just interesting to see Chris Brown.
I mean, he's always coming up somewhere.
He is.
Chris Brown.
All right. Final story of the week. Justin Bieber is not a victim of Diddy. So this was one of those rumors or whatever that was flying around in the months leading up to the trial. And to be honest, there was quite a few rumors flying around, was there minors involved? If no other celebrity was part of freak-offs, why are they in hiding? Are they in hiding though?
I don't think they're in hiding. I just think other celebrities didn't want to insert themselves. No one wants to be tied to Diddy one way or the other.
Even if you're at a white party, just having a lot of fun, one of Diddy's white parties, you don't want to be linked in any way.
No, and that's why all those people, there's a few people I think that have come forward and been I didn't see any of this freak-off stuff.
For years, Diddy insisted publicly that his relationship with Cassie was loving and respectful fearful face. His media narrative insisted their split was peaceful and a mutual decision. But when the messages were presented in court, the true story fell into place. The texts revealed threatening messages like, "I built your life. I'll destroy it if you cross me." His promises to pay for silence were clear in messages stating, "Your silence is paid for." The prosecutor made sure to show these messages alongside Diddy's own public statements from the same days, a dramatic contrast that exposed a staggering deception. His charming, affectionate words to the media were a mask. In private, a threatening, manipulative side came alive. The messages made it hard for anyone in the courtroom to believe his polished story. His true motives were exposed, and the dramatic fall from power was underway.
This violence captured on cameras at a Los Angeles hotel ensued. You can see Combs kicking and dragging her. But the defense said Ventura's participation in the freak-offs was at times her idea, showing a text message from days earlier that said, "Baby, I want to FO so bad." "You proposed a freak-off," a defense attorney said. "You kept asking him." Combs' lawyers revealed he overdosed on painkillers in 2012, asking Ventura, "Were the worst years associated in any way with his drug use?" "Yeah, I would say." The defense hoping to convince the jury Combs became violent not to coerce Ventura into sex, but because he was an addict. They argue he may have been abusive, but that he's not guilty of sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And then I think things might have just spiraled out of control, and at the end, do I think that she wanted to do those things? No.
No, I don't think she wanted to do it at the end.
But it
could
does
be more explicit about it.
True.
I wish there
true.
was a paper trail of her like being more, because then he'd be cooked.
Yes, I agree with that. And yeah, so yeah, these texts don't look good because it does make it look like she was into the freak-offs and all the freaky stuff.
As messages were read aloud, all eyes fell on Cassie's fearful face. She remained composed, wearing a simple black pantsuit, a symbol of her newfound strength and independence. There were moments when her hands trembled, especially when a threatening text appeared on the screen. But each time, she kept her resolve, closed her eyes briefly, and nodded quietly to her lawyers. She avoided looking at Diddy. Not once did their eyes meet. That silence spoke volumes. It was a powerful contrast to his dramatic unraveling. The courtroom fell hushed in recognition of her dignity and resolve. Between her and Diddy stood a literal wall of security, a dramatic symbol of the physical and psychological barrier now protecting her from him. Cassie remained calm under pressure, proving that the greatest power lies in staying strong when you have every right to break down. Her testimony, supported by messages and her own demeanor, made a dramatic, undeniable case.
You know, they have their notebooks in their hand. They're coming in, they're very alert, and I think this is one of those testimonies where you have no choice but to pay attention and almost be flabbergasted, obviously, at some of what you're hearing, because it's not only just insight into somebody's sex life, but the details are disturbing at times, especially during that prosecution testimony when we saw some of the alleged abuse, or we saw pictures of her after a beating of some kind, according to her. But the jurors are definitely paying attention. I don't see anyone that's not keeping their focus on Cassie Ventura, and also I noticed them taking notes a lot of times.
And the children, as they were exiting court yesterday, 2 of the girls were seen crying. How emotional have they been in court?
Again, I cannot imagine if that was my father or somebody close to me up there and having to hear details of their sex life. Those are young women. They lost their mother, one of them, the twins. So no one can probably quite understand what it is that they're going through, but I think that's something that you think about on both sides, you know, to look at Alex Fine, which is Cassie Ventura's husband, and think about him having to listen to all that's being said about the type of woman that Cassie Ventura was versus the person that's expecting, you know, their 3rd child together now. So whether it's Combs's family or Ventura's family that's there to support her, her brother and her husband, Alex Fine, I think it's difficult on both sides. Seeing him taking notes from the beginning, I see him put his glasses on. He gets very close to the screen when they're reading some of those text messages, so he's paying attention.
Now, Ventura confirmed that she and Combs had conversations about a swingers lifestyle, but at the freak-offs, they were very different.
Yeah, so she talked about this idea where I guess Combs wanted her to watch him have sex with another woman. She said that happened 2 or 3 times, but that he mentioned it frequently.
Kim Porter came up today in testimony. What was the significance there?
The defense said early on that this case would be about infidelity, love, and jealousy. And this is where they brought that up today when they brought up Kim Porter's name. The defense asked Cassie Ventura, are you jealous, or were you jealous of Kim Porter? And Ventura sort of contemplated, but did get to this moment where she said, knowing that Combs spent holidays with his family, which meant with Porter, did bother her. And she admitted that. They also pointed out that there was testimony where she talked about being insanely jealous overall as a girlfriend. So, yeah.
We're hearing the judge wants Cassie off the stand tomorrow. Will the prosecution and defense get equal time?
Yeah, as long as there aren't any additional motions, I think that is the goal, to have her off the stand by tomorrow.
Why do you think that? What's the reasoning behind wanting her off the stand tomorrow?
In the very beginning, Rachel, they told us that she would likely be on that stand 2 to 3 days. So here we are.